Hello everyone, and welcome to a rather different retrospective rant with me, Joey Huff, as your mostly present host. I am very tired today, and not because of anything awful that happened, no. I'm not due for something horrible to happen for at least 2 more days. I'm tired because of my allergy shots. Why do I need allergy shots? Because nature hates me, and my immune system cannot resist the power of the dark side. So, I need to get super special shots. Otherwise, I can't breathe through my nose, and my head will feel like it's being tugged into the atmosphere. But, while these miracle shots grant me the divine blessing of being able to breathe through both nostrils, they also make me very sleepy. Especially these latest ones, because they're super concentrated. Or something. So if you notice a slight difference in my cadence, or if I seem less cogent than usual, you got your answer. Regardless, I battled against this annoying mental malaise all last week, hoping to construct a coherent script from which I might speak an elaborate and profound truth. I failed. Instead, I'm taking this rough draft of an outline of a brainstorm for some of my other episodes, and I'm going to talk about topics that don't really merit their own individual episodes. Indeed, I shall present you with my top 5 least favorite tropes in storytelling. Let's get to it. My first hated trope: the hero's journey. Yeah, I know, it's the foundational building block upon which all stories are built. The majority of attempts to slap it aside or defy this sacred road have all resulted in disaster. If we defy it, we end up with characters that achieve their supposed goals without deserving it. We struggle through plots with no reason or flow to them, and the rules of each story setting fluctuate wildly depending on the mood of the author. But I have a counterpoint. Gaming. I love video games, and I love tabletop RPGs. And starting from the bottom and scraping my way to the top, or even just to the middle, over the course of decades of worth of stories and content, has worn out its welcome. I get enough of that grind in real life, so why the hell would I do it for entertainment? But I am also not so crass as to believe the hero's journey needs to be disposed of, hence its position at the bottom of this list. So, instead, I would beg, my fellow authors and content creators to do something else for me. Please, cheat. Instead of going wild and just doing whatever the hell you want with your story, or sticking to a basic-ass formula, I ask that you do what other great writers have done, and cheat. How is this accomplished? Macbeth by Shakespeare, strangely enough, follows the classic hero's journey. He has a typical life in his service to the kingdom. He has the call to adventure when the witches prophesize his ascension. He denies that call at first until his wife comes, and then many difficulties and complications ensue. But we are not forced to sit through a training arc. We don't have to see his much more interesting mentor die so that he can grow. We don't have to see him go through character-based challenges in order to grow, because instead, he degrades with every story beat, and he forces all the other characters to go through the hurt and forces them to grow up. And thus, the boring, though indispensable hero's journey is still satisfied, but it is tweaked and twisted just enough to make it compelling and fresh, even after all these centuries. In your stories, establish that the busy work of building up the protagonist as the protagonist has already been done off-screen. Or you can sprinkle those sorts of details along key moments to show the hero's past and current growth in unison, and all without having to go through another long training sequence and another, look how naive and stupid this character was at the beginning, and 3 movies later we finally get to see how it's been done. Too many times. And it breaks up the action, and it reminds you that you're watching a by-the-numbers story instead of being immersed in a legend. Other examples of cheating the hero's journey that I like include Tim Burton's Batman, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Godfather duology, Indiana Jones, Fate Zero, Full Metal Alchemist, and both Knights of the Old Republic games. Now, my second hated story trope, The Chosen One. Some dude is prophesized to do something awesome, thus, something awesome was done by this dude. That's about it. My reasons for hating the Chosen One trope are similar to my reasons for hating the hero's journey. The key difference is that the hero's journey is a basic structure for a story, and it can be tweaked and retooled as needed. The Chosen One trope, not so much. There's always a prophecy or a MacGuffin that has very specific conditions that will describe the story in its entirety, and if there are any deviations in the plot or characters from that prophecy, it's usually a very boring signal that a very boring twist is about to occur, and it usually takes the form as, someone misread the prophecy or misread the Chosen One's nature, or there was a hidden part of the whole legend that just got revealed in the last moments because the author finally decided it was convenient. It's like when someone says, yes, indeed, this sword can only be wielded by the pure of heart, and my heart is pure, but not pure good. Or it can be something like, our savior will be wise and clever, and really that just means the entire cast is stupid and our hero is the least stupid. It's very rare for a Chosen One story to have any real stakes, because you know how the story will end. Even if you don't know the exact ending, you'll know the basic gist. And this means that you'll be more attached to the side characters or the lore around the setting, or if the protagonist is obnoxious enough, you may end up rooting for the villains. They're the ones who have to grow more dangerous to win against harsher odds. The Chosen One story arc, it just ain't that interesting to me. Some Chosen One stories that work are Avatar: The Last Airbender and Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind. And this is because the protagonist has to work and earn their role instead of just getting it. Trope 3. The smart character is just that smart. So you're reading or watching a murder mystery, you're made to look at a single piece of evidence, and then another one after another, and you're forced to listen to an over-emotional monologue from each of the involved parties, all of the suspects, and all of this tedium comes from the eyes of a single character with supposedly average but functioning intelligence who will remain completely confused as to who the culprit may be. All of a sudden, the real protagonist of the story, the genius of the adventure, reveals that they have found a set of clues that the audience was never presented with, and it was never even hinted towards, and they solve the whole case. And of course, this genius hero picked out all this evidence and had all these instincts that pointed towards the evidence because they were just that good and that smart. Alright, let's be honest. Not everyone is smart. But people who enjoy reading supposedly smart literature or playing intelligence-based games are, at the very least, fond of working their mental muscles, and that means they like to follow the process of intelligent thoughts. This is especially true if it's related to a challenge like solving a mystery, escaping a difficult situation, or some other conflict that requires a keen mind. But a story can only be as smart as whoever may be telling it. And if an author's idea of intelligent thinking is, the idea just came to this person, then the story is not going to be that smart. Or, what's even more annoying, is that the writer will deliberately, with malice of forethought, make extra certain to keep all key evidence out of the audience's focus, so that the story can go on for as long as possible. Or, as often happens in these kinds of stories, the killer or the culprit was the character that we had the least time with. It's just that one. And it cheats the brainier among us from enjoying the mystery, and it is also just poor and annoying writing. I don't like it. Yeah, honestly, I get it if you're worried that your audience might be ahead of you or ahead of the story. It'll be worse and actually insulting if you keep things from them through artificial means, or you just introduce a whole new MacGuffin or plot device at the end without warning, because it shows that you're more interested in keeping the action going instead of engaging with the audience. Alright, Trope 4, gender conflict in stories. Stop it. Please, just stop it. I am so tired of seeing angry, forever scorned, pseudo-intellectual hacks taking out their frustrations with the opposite sex and forming them into a barely coherent sermon about how romance and traditional love roles are stupid or outdated and whatever. I'm tired of being told that men are just stupid, lustful animals, or that women are all just conniving, selfish shrews, or any of the other gender cliches. I used to like stories about battles between the sexes because they were often meant to be comedic and awkwardly romantic. They were light-hearted and uplifting. We could make fun of the nuances particular to each sex, and we might even scratch our heads in embarrassment and blush a bit when we realize, yeah, I really do that a lot, don't I? That's pretty silly. And then, of course, there would be a heartwarming message about how men and women, for all their differences, are both partners in the human experience. We balance each other out and learn from each other. We become better people together and make a better life together. And we teach the next generation to do the same. Nowadays, the opposite sex is the enemy. And every movie, 90% of all movies tackling these sorts of themes always end with a condemnation. Stupid man, see how women are so much wiser and stronger than you? Silly girl, can't you see how you can't make your own decisions? Stupid little boy, can't you see how being active and having dreams for yourself will lead to your mother's death? The modern obsession with power dynamics and whoever leads the family and the couple has destroyed romance, both in fiction and in reality. Please, stop it. Whew, finally, we got Trope 5. The bad guys are just misunderstood, and the good guys are oppressing everybody. Okay, you can make your villains as sympathetic as you want. You can make the world and the setting as cruel and unfair as you want, but for the love of Avalon, stop making demons misunderstood trauma victims, or vampires the mistreated victims of society, or any number of objectively evil entities and concepts into the most neutered and worthless creeps imaginable. Yes, I know that objective morality and being judged and held accountable for one's actions and bad decisions is scary, especially when it's inconvenient for yourself, but that's no reason for you to take your degeneracy out on everyone else. There are evil people in the world, and they do things that are much worse than misgendering a person or refusing traditional family life. And if you are sheltered enough to believe differently, to the point where you think angels are evil and demons are the underdogs, or that terrorism is permissible under the right circumstances, or some other asinine concept, and then you put that into writing and demand that it be shoveled into people's minds and then demand to be paid for it, I ask you to stop. I'm all for moral quandaries and gray areas. I love when a story presents hard choices that may lead to disaster either way, but displacing morality entirely, or adopting a policy of restrictions for everyone except for me because I know best, and that sort of thinking, and then forcing it onto all of media until every other story preaches the same message, I find that very stupid. And yes, I am going to be that guy who says it speaks to the degeneration of society. Alright, so those are my least favorite tropes in fiction, and of course I know that freedom of speech cuts both ways. All manner of topics in speech are fair game for presentation to the public forum, whether I like them or not, and that of course means that they are fair game to be criticized and discerned in the public forum. Now the great hope with this is that there is some sort of inherent goodness and good sense within humanity which will allow us to sift through the bad ideas and discover the good. I am holding out hope that this is true. But I, and those of my thinking, are only human. We are not invulnerable to discouragement. And when we see poor storytelling inspired by poor thinking, and then witness its defense by both the insane and the usually reasonable, we become discouraged. We need to vent our frustrations from time to time, like I'm doing now, or else we'd just give up the fight entirely. Anyway, that's my rant over. If you liked listening to that, please subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening on. You'll be notified of the next post and have easy access to any content you haven't listened to already. Thank you so much for listening to Retrospective Rants, and have a good one.